I just wanted to reflect and talk about how much has changed since leaving the left. I think about 3 years ago now, 3.5, which is wild to think about. Now, what's funny is that my core beliefs have not really changed at all, but once again, I am watching the right shift dramatically in a way that's very similar to what I saw happening on the left. So you hear people say, oh, I didn't leave the left left me. Okay, so we have to talk about the right. I'll be generalizing a bit because there are differences with people who identify as conservatives, as Republicans, as just being on the right, as leaning right, and same goes for the left, liberal, Democrat, the whole thing. I have noticed some patterns, and they feel extremely familiar. I've had this realization that so much of what we say about the left, specifically the far left, you can say the exact same thing about the right, specifically the far right. Now, that is not really a surprise in itself because the horseshoe effect, I'm sure we all know, but there are specific things that still have surprised me throughout the years. Because I've been around a lot of self-identified Republicans, conservatives, I think it's worth comparing all these different spaces, especially right now, when it's becoming clearer how they mirror each other. Now, one of the main things that pushed me away from the left originally, right, was this pressure to label yourself. If you were surrounded by progressives and didn't identify exactly how they wanted, it's suspicious. You're not one of us. And it actually doesn't matter who you are, your background, your experiences, you're bigot. You don't agree with everything the left is saying? Yeah, you're literally not a human. You were shunned, instantly branded a traitor. Now, does the right do this? Yeah, but in a slightly different way. I found that the right, they are less obsessed with labels, which is good. It's kind of changing, I'm noticing. There are constant loyalty tests. There's a constant pressure to prove you're part of the movement. If you question, like Trump, for example, point out hypocrisy in the GOP, or try to approach certain social issues with nuance, you are a traitor, a liberal. I will give you an example. Okay, let's take a controversial topic. Let's talk about trans people. It's possible to protect women's spaces, women's sports. It's not fair to have biological males competing and still respect trans people's right to exist, to live their life peacefully. As adults, they want to, permanently transition. That's their choice. Duh. I've watched conservatives become increasingly hostile towards any attempt at nuance. Again, I'm generalizing here. These are not all conservatives. I've still found that the right, they are more open to having these conversations, to having debates, and willing to hear out the other side 100%. But it's not heading in a good direction. In certain circles too, you say something like, well, it's not all trans people who are like this, who are like, screaming about use mushroom self, whatever, or I need to compete with women, and that's now enough to earn you a side glance. Like, what? It's not all of them. What do you mean? Well, that's what I mean. There are plenty of trans people that have all kinds of different political beliefs. There are even trans people that voted for Trump, for example. Like, so many people forget that and now gravitate towards immediate insults. I've watched people I used to respect who once made very thoughtful, balanced arguments shift towards actual hateful messages. Now, I know this overused, oh, that's hateful, this is hateful, but certain people, they're actually being hateful and conformity gets rewarded. There's this unspoken script that you have to follow. Even if you don't claim a side, even if you literally never label yourself a conservative or Republican, people are like, what? You just said something, it sounds woke? You sound like a liberal! And the world keeps turning. It's the same thing I experienced on the left. Wait, but you sound like a conservative. And so what? It's like they can't even imagine someone having a different opinion. But then I hear the same thing on the right, in real life, in a professional setting. And not in a lot of liberals would agree with you here. No, it was like an insult. You sound like a liberal. Guys, deja vu. So yeah, the one of us mentality, this tribalism, it's the same message a lot of the time, but different vocabulary. So my personal beliefs, though, they haven't really changed much at all. And something like immigration, for example, that became a huge issue during election season. I still believe in law, order, secure border. I mean, any country should. It's essential to keep the people safe. That should not be villainized in itself. But when we see documented cases where due process in immigration enforcement is weakened, rushed, or inconsistently applied, that's an issue. So you can support strong borders and still want a system that is fair. Or feminism, I still believe in feminism that is rooted in biology, in logic, something that uplifts both men and women instead of pitting them against each other. Now what's frustrating is that right-wing echo chambers are just as strong or stronger than the left. People escape that echo chamber to fall into another. They stop watching CNN and just get their news on X, which will obviously just feed you content that the algorithm thinks you'll watch, and you'll fall into an echo chamber, and you will never look at the other side. Don't do that. It's all about fear and anger, and the right often starts with logic and then ends up driven by fear and outrage in the same exact way that the left is. Now, there's also the hypocrisy. So the left is always saying, we're so empathetic, we just care about equality, we're so tolerant, right? Everyone's equal. But then they demonize white people. You can deny it all you want. It's out there in the open, people proudly saying it in person, at protests, or online, and that gets ignored a lot, and that's not right. But I've seen the same kind of dehumanization mirrored on the right, just aimed at different groups, which is nothing new. But I feel like for a while, most people were like, yeah, we don't care what your skin color is. We care about what you believe, what your views are. That's what really matters. And now it doesn't seem to be the case. That, again, not everyone. Actual racism from both sides, yes, but you don't want to become like what you claim to hate. If you're judging people based on their race or ethnicity or sexuality or whatever the case may be, you're just as bad. You're just as bad. And in the beginning, you were saying, we're nothing like that. We care about the content of your character. Do you really? Some of you still do, I'm sure. But then they defend people that are actually like extremely racist or sexist or homophobic or, all these things that of course exist. And we all know that. And in the beginning, there was no issue calling real instances of that out. And now it's like, if you do, you're woke. I think also with media. I have a good example because I was recently talking to someone about this. Tom MacDonald. I have been asked to review his songs. He's a Canadian rapper, in case you don't know. Lots of conservatives love him. And I understand why people want these voices to push back against the mainstream narratives. That all makes sense to me. We have to be honest about what this is turning into. One of his songs is literally called "The Devil is a Democrat." Based. Oh, that's so based. What happened to, we don't demonize the other side like the left does. The devil is a Democrat. What do you think that's going to accomplish? We want unity. We don't want division. Really? I just want to read you some lyrics because the devil is a Democrat and we ain't with it. We ain't switching. Y'all are tripping. I guess God just built us different. What side am I on? I hate all of you. I'm kidding. I just find it hypocritical. It's this idea that people who disagree with you aren't just wrong, they're evil. The devil's a Democrat? What? I think we just lost the plot. You're morally superior because God built you different. I mean, this is not critical thinking. This is tribalism and weaponizing faith. And your worth is measured by how much you hate the other side. And to that, my question is, why copy the same toxicity you claim to hate? Why not be better? Why not set an example? And it's the same thing with like after Charlie Kirk, which is obviously horrific. I've talked about it so much, and the responses that we're seeing, even still, right at the No Kings protest, there were so many disgusting signs, so many people glorifying violence. But then you have people on the right, I've talked about this, but it's like, oh, they don't know what they've started. They have no idea what's coming, what's happening. Tell me, what is your plan? There's no plan. They just want to get people angry. A threat of what? Civil war? What do you think is going to solve this? Now, on the other hand, I have seen in certain Christian conservative circles, and of course it depends on a lot of things. What generation? Is it a Gen Z Christian conservative? What denomination? Like all these things play a role. But I've also interacted with a lot of these people who are consistent, who act in line with their faith instead of just using it as a label. I've met people who say, of course, we don't agree with Democrats, but we still see them as people. We want what's best for, common sense. All we want to do is, reach people with love and truth. And even though I'm not religious myself, I find that approach beautiful. Those are people who have inspired me. Those are people that I aspire to be more like. That consistency in wanting good for others, regardless of their political beliefs, their gender, their sexuality, their race. Those are people I truly respect because so many fake that image. The I'm logical, I'm calm, I'm so open-minded act. What really bothers me is the hypocrisy. People pretending to be someone they're not. And there has been a rise in that as well. Just back to Tom for a second. In Woke World, his recent song, first of all, I'll put up the thumbnail, very interesting. He literally says, burn this woke world down. And of course, he actually has some great points buried in there. There's truth in what he's saying about censorship, media bias, how performative woke culture is in general. Those are real issues, but the delivery, the way it's packaged, it turns legitimate criticism into a call for war. We're gonna burn it all, okay? How is this gonna help bring us together? How is this gonna help inspire others to have conversations, to debate? We're gonna burn it down? The devil's a Democrat? If you were a Democrat, you saw that, what would you think? I'm gonna listen to this person. He might have some good points. He's calling me the devil, but that's okay. It's just a minor thing. No! Would you like a song, The Devil is a Republican? Would you want to listen to someone and their points when you hear that? Personally, I think if you are saying either, it's just very childish. And that's the issue, because when good points are mixed with exaggeration, then people will stop listening. Or, something else I've seen recently. This woman, she said, if you're on the left, don't expect me to listen to you. Especially after recent events. And I'm assuming she's referring to Charlie Kirk's assassination, and I understand people are heartbroken, right? But I'm not gonna ever engage with someone on the left again because of that. Not every leftist is jumping for joy. A lot are. A lot of people have called out their own side. To act like no one on the left is capable of that, or to say, okay, I refuse to listen to someone because they may see things differently. I don't know. I don't think that's the right move. I don't think that's a good idea moving forward. That mindset is exactly what keeps everyone divided. Also, back to criticizing certain figures, right? Elon Musk with X, and the way that he's monetized the male loneliness, the way that he's made these sexualized AI bots, for example, fake news that people share on X, including videos involving AI, people reposting that, saying, I can't believe this happened, look at what the left is doing now. You don't have to fake stories. There's plenty of disgusting, despicable things you can find the left doing. You don't have to create AI videos of it and then just not check if it's true and start sharing it. Even Elon recently, he reposted this article where the headline was fake. It was digitally altered, and he just posted it. I think it was at 14 or 15 million people who had seen that. That's a problem. And what's an even bigger issue is this inability to call it out, because Elon's fighting the good fight. Okay, great. You think he's fighting the good fight? That's okay. That doesn't mean he's perfect. He's a human being. He's gonna make mistakes. You should feel comfortable calling out those mistakes. And then you hear, oh, this is not the time. It's not the time to do that. What, because of what happened with Charlie Kirk, which again was devastating, these reactions we're seeing are disgusting. We have to continue to call it out, yes, but because of that, the right gets to do whatever they want? No. Or with Trump and him posting AI slop as well. First, it was the Gaza video, which was so tone deaf, and now it's him throwing at Harry Sisson at a No Kings protest. I mean, if you're a 5th grader, haha, this actually does matter. It may seem so silly, but this is the president of the United States. This is our leader. And if you want to be taken seriously, you have to act like it. I don't think you should be posting videos of him throwing shit at a liberal influencer. That might be a hot take. It's embarrassing. And to the people calling that based, is everything based? If it's coming from your side, it doesn't matter what it is. Also, people on both sides have started to politicize everything. Remember, people on the right would say, let's keep politics out of the classroom, especially with young children. They don't need to know what the teacher's personal beliefs are, for example. I agree with that. Why am I seeing Charlie Kirk worksheets for 5th graders? Even if you were a huge fan, children that young don't really have the critical ability to analyze this ideology. So I think turning that into homework is a bit hypocritical. There are more important things a 5th grader should be learning than Charlie Kirk's debates with college students. Sexism. Let's talk about sexism. The extremes on both sides are sexist. They're sexist. One side, the misandry. On the far right, misogyny. And back when I was on the left, I remember people being judged solely based on these identity categories. And now it's the same thing on the right, okay? Your religion, again, sexuality, all these things, how traditional you look. The idea was that anyone could be part of the movement. Anyone can support this political figure or have these beliefs. The people on the right will welcome them with open arms. It doesn't matter what they look like. None of that matters. But both sides have this obsession with identity politics and collecting labels. It's all tribalism. And again, I found that the right does this less, but it's getting worse. Also, cancel culture exists on the right as well. They just call it something else or don't call it anything at all, but they also boycott companies, right? And sometimes rightfully so. They also demand public loyalty from random influencers at times. They have their own purity test, just the vocab changes again. And I'm all for accountability culture. Things like actual incitement to violence on either the left or the right, wherever it's coming from, 100% call that out. There will be consequences, accountability culture, great. But so many conservatives can't seem to call it out when it's happening from their own side. Why? Again, they'll say it's not the time, the left is worse, what about this, what about that? Wrong is wrong, and if you've claimed a label, a team, you should want what's best for that team. So why would you stay silent about that? I know that it's also the recent political violence that's playing a role in radicalizing people, but this started a long time ago. It's not just after Charlie Kirk or the attempts on Trump's life. This was happening slowly but surely for a while. And it makes sense. Again, like I said, the further you go towards the extremes, the more they look exactly the same. But it's just, in general, starting to feel like people are scared to call out their own side. They are demonizing the other side. I feel like before it was so obvious what side was so much better at having respectful debates. And I still think the right does a much better job, but that could easily change. The left, they hate us because we are men. That's wrong. Agreed. They hate us because we're straight. That's wrong. Agreed. Because we're Christian. Agreed. Because we're all these things, right? They hate us because we're white. Agreed. All that's wrong. But then when you see people on your side doing the same thing, they hate people because they're gay, because they're black, because they're a woman, because they're not traditional. It's like, we're gonna just be quiet. We're just not gonna talk about that. That's also wrong. I think at this point, a lot of people are feeling fatigued, especially with political labels. And I don't like labels in general. In any part of my life, even though others would prefer you to label yourself so you can fit in a tiny little neat box. Another wake-up call for me was that it felt like I was being handed another script in professional environments, creative environments, where it's like, just say this. This would sound better, especially when it comes to labels. So would you say you're this and that and this and that? No. No, I wouldn't. But you could just say this, I get certain things are off limits, of course, because as a company, I'm talking about, certain companies that have wanted to collaborate, but then you're basically handing creators scripts and saying, say this, don't say that. There have been brand deals, there have been collaborations I've turned down because I could not believe how manipulative it all felt. And if me from 2021 would hear the names of these brands or these people that I said no to, I feel like I'd just be shocked, probably. But I'm so happy I did, because nothing is worth putting myself back in that same toxic environment just on the other side, where they try to control the narrative, they don't like nuance, you're no better than the far left. At all. But I've also met incredible conservatives who truly do value freedom of speech while staying respectful, who actually focus on character, not immutable characteristics. And that's pretty much it. I just want to share my thoughts. It's been on my mind for a while. I think I want to talk more about the psychology behind everything that's going on moving forward, because that's also what's really interested me, what's happening in our culture. And I would love to hear what you guys think. If you guys relate to this or you don't, let me know in the comments. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.